Hello and welcome to Macro Mondays presented by the Goxstein News Network. Today is September 15th, 2025, and I'm your host, Landy. And we're going to take a look at just Bitcoin and Ethereum today. And there's a really good reason why, and it's because of the weekly closes. And in this case, we can see Bitcoin did close another weekly higher low on a closing basis. Yes, there is a swing downtrend here, but this is a closing higher low as it relates to the last higher low on a close, which was right at that 101 with the low coming in at 98,225. Now we have a new weekly higher low close coming in at 108,250 with a swing low at 107,250, right around a major daily level. And that major daily level, of course, is the level on the daily right there at 107,270 to 108, which between these two weeklies in late June into early July, we saw Bitcoin put in a complex higher low and then break out of the 112 region to go put in the new all-time high at 124.5. Now, why is this so important? Because we are in a compression. You can see the bands are compressed here on the weekly. And if we do see this higher low and a close dropped, and that's whether this makes a higher high or makes a lower high. If it makes a lower high, it's a trend reversal setup with a trend break. But you don't want to see, bulls don't want to see, I should say, the 107 to 250 higher low swing dropped, and even kind of dangerous right around that 108 250. If that is dropped on the weekly, that would be a trend break. We'd have to be very aware of any swings back higher or any swings that do go higher, as that would be a trend break. That would be a change of character on the weekly. And likely, if we didn't already have a lower high reversal setup, we'd be looking for a lower high reversal setup, or at minimum a swing of the highs or near the highs that could result in a lower high setup, or just another lower high for that matter. And in this case, it's because price is compressed up here. We see that reflected in the bands, that is something that we have to pay attention to. Now, to the upside, we do need to see Bitcoin start to get above that upper first standard deviation in 116.8 and start to push up towards the upper second, which is just below the $123,000 high over here. And of course, only on closes above the upper second that also continue to close above the all-time high at 124.5 would we be looking for the next leg up to the upper third, somewhere around 128 to $130,000. Of course, a major 1414 Fibonacci extension level as well from both the prior cycle high to low, bear market $69,000 high to $15,500 low. And then, of course, the last monthly higher high to higher low is up there as well. And that would be the 109,360 to 74,420 is also right in line there at $128,000 to $130,000. Now, that would kick off the next leg and an expansion on the weekly, targeting that area initially. And then above that area, we'd be looking to the 138 to 140, 148 to 150, so on and so forth. But bulls need to hold this last higher low on the weekly at 107, 250. So very, very, very important. And of course, this week on Wednesday, we have the FOMC meeting and the 13 and 26 week T-bill auction came in. They're fully pricing it, continuing to price in a 25 basis point cut. And, where things would get crazy is if we saw a hold, because the market is fully expecting a 25 basis point cut or a cut that is larger than 25 basis point, like a 50 basis point cut. That would cause a massive liquidity readjustment within the markets. And typically those are bearish in terms of price structure. So just keep that in mind, that Wednesday is the day that markets are waiting for right now. So to the downside, Bitcoin does have room, even down to the basis at like right around 111 to 80 on closes. It can swing below. You don't want to see it swing below the low, but it can swing below. And I'll show you on the daily here the areas of interest that I'd be looking for the bulls and the bears even. But in this case, you want to see the bulls sticking above this basis band on a close. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. We'll go ahead and look at the daily, and we'll turn on local support and resistance. Excuse me. And let's go ahead and look at this daily. So Bitcoin came up and tagged our overhead resistance at 115, between 115.7 and that 117.8, that zone, the yellow zone up here. And, this is the area where, right around the area where Bitcoin rejected before after breaking down. And right now, Bitcoin is in a safe position above the upper first standard deviation. And what we need to see, and that's right around this swing low. Now, this was the swing outside of the tighter range here that I have as defined as 115.7 to that 1.8. It's 117.8. You can call it 116 to 118 basically in this yellow zone. But the swing outside of it was at 114.750. And that is where the upper first is. If Bitcoin begins to break down there and the low of Monday, which is at 114.4, then I would be looking for a retest of the highs over here. So you've got the close, you've got two swing highs over here at 113.5 to that basis band right around the major weekly level at 112. That would be the areas to the downside that I'd be looking at as areas of interest. If we did see a break below 112, I'd be looking down to the big daily area, somewhere around the 109.5 by the lower first to 110. Anywhere below there, the weekly at 109 is what we need to watch. If we start to see price crash through that area, well, then the weekly itself is in danger down there at the 107 to 108 region. But if the bulls can hold in and above 112, and especially above 113.5, which is what defines setting that weekly high or low on a closing basis, then they have a good chance to work their way into this overhead resistance. Back above 115.7, I'd look for the local highs right around the close here at 116.5 to 117, where the upper second standard deviation is right where that high is, around 117.5. So I need to see closes above 118 essentially. Then we can start looking up to 120 to 121. So 120 right where the upper third standard deviation is on the daily, and above 121 shorts get pushed out of position. Right now they're not even sweating. They're not sweating until we see closes above 118. I think they would start to sweat as price would get to this next big area around 120 to 121, and any closes above there, I think they get pushed out, and then we start seeing price head on up to the 123 to 125. Anywhere above there, as I noted on the weekly, look into that 1414 to 128 to 130 as the next big area to pay attention to. So the daily does have momentum turned against it. There is no in trend because this is an uptrend off of and a trend reversal set up at that last higher low on the daily at 109.5. The daily uptrend, there is no bearish divergence for this current trend. Is there hidden bearish divergence? Yes, it's corrective at first, sending things into a consolidation after the high was put in on Sunday. So we do see that stochastic momentum is turned against price right now, but this is a close over close price momentum indicator, whereas a stochastic RSI is measuring the velocity of RSI. We already have RSI up here, so we don't need to reference it twice. In this case, we can see that the 2-day is pointed up. We need to see progress though. Closes above 118 is what I want to see. That would start to really push the 2-day into the bullish control zone and towards the overbought, which is where the biggest moves typically happen for regular stock, is in the overbought and oversold zones. 3-day is also turned up in the context of the bearish control zone, which you can use bullish and bearish control zones for regular Stoke. Stoke RSI doesn't work as well, but you can use divergences and bull and bear divs for momentum here, and zones as well, so bullish and bearish zones. In this case, we could potentially see the 4-day turn up. Now this has got 2 days. This is going to close on the Wednesday candle, so it's got today's candle, which is open. It's still Monday for me, but it's Tuesday in Bitcoin land. It's got Tuesday and then Wednesday close. After that, we'll check on the 4-day, see if it gets a turn up for momentum as well. And this is going to be on closes above around 113.5 anyway, which is where the weekly set the higher low in a close anyway. So pretty much wrapped on price there. And we'll touch on that on Wednesday. Now, why am I only looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum? Because Bitcoin and Ethereum are very close to their last higher lows at this particular moment. So the last higher low, the higher low is closed for Ethereum on that close above 4,500. And the last higher low is down here at right around 4,210. And that's the area to watch to the downside. If we see Ethereum start to fall through on the daily around the 4,400 area, 4,380 or so, look to that weekly upper first right there, which is right at the weekly closing higher low, which is at 4,300. If that's dropped, it endangers the weekly swing higher low. And this would not look great right around that 4,200, because then we're probably looking to 4K, possibly 3,900. And on the opposite side of that, for Ethereum, if it can push back up and especially get above on the dailies above the 4,630 area here, we did see a swing into the prior all-time high zone. Then I'd be looking right back to the highs around 4,800 to the 4,900 high, and then push on through to the all-time high at that 49.55 5K, and potentially start to head up and hit that upper second around 5,200. Then above there, it's like 5,500 to 6K, and then 6K is right around where the upper third is. Above there, we'd be looking around 6,500 to 66, 67, somewhere around the 1.168. Around 6,500 to 6,600 up there. Now for the daily, for Ethereum, it did go from a consolidation on the low side below in the weak half of the bands here to the high side. What we need to see realistically is locally, that 4,200 hold this bottom side of this range, and then try to springboard up back into this area. Now this is a compression, so if we do start to see closes back above the upper second here, so right around we'll call it 46.75, then we'd be looking for the highs again around the 47.68, 47.70. And then for a march up to the prior all-time high and potentially hit that 5K on expansion. But we need to see conditions met on the daily. So close above the upper second, then get above the high here at 47.68, and then get that expansion to the all-time high around that 49.55. We see closes above there. This is full-on expansion to the upside to hit, that 52 to 55, and then potentially 6K to 65, 6,600. So those are going to be the things that I'm watching out for, and really it's the downside on any moves to the downside. So for Ethereum, it's going to be the weekly area, and I'll be watching this on the daily, of course, at the 42.10 area to the downside. So 42.10, that swing low, that daily consolidation. And then for Bitcoin, I'd be watching the downside to 112. It gets a little dicey for the bulls below 112. There is supports down there, but it's really any kind of daily moves back to 112. And anywhere below there, it's going to make the bulls sweat for sure. And of course, then it's about watching the last weekly higher low, 107 to 250. And that's all I got for you today. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.